Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you another video. All right, so you're probably used to me walking around outside on days like this since I've been doing it every day for the past several days. Hold up. I can't stand that. All right, there we go. Yeah, so for the last couple days, I'll be going out, doing my thing, talking about Bradley Beal, going all over the place. Today, my body's exhausted, so I'm just letting the Sunday be the rest day, like they say religiously sometimes. But this is what it is. There's still news because the NBA does not rest on this day. Bradley Beal, Woj bomb just dropped. Deal isn't done yet, but the team has been chosen. It will be the Phoenix Suns, second round picks and pick swaps, Chris Paul's contract, Landry Shamet. That's what's understood. They said it could take a few days to finalize the details, so we'll probably see more stuff added to this trade. This probably will be one of those trades that you see start to unveil itself. Other teams start adding themselves to it. Oh, this guy's added to it. Well, not really. And then on Tuesday, you find out you have more guys added to it. This seems like that kind of thing, only because of the type of contracts that could be sent out to assist this to assist other teams. With the money that's going to be going back and forth between Landry Shamet, Chris Paul, and Bradley Beal's albatross of a contract. That's just a lot of opportunities for teams who want to deal salary, who want to do side deals, to jump in and just throw a second round pick in there and see if they can get themselves involved in maybe picking up something that they want or not. So this is that type of trade. Since it's so huge, I can see a team like the Lakers calling up and saying, we got $15 million here to throw in with Malik Beasley. Can we get involved in this thing? We'll give you a second round pick. I could totally see something like that, and we just end up with something. I don't know, but that's just an example. The no trade clause will be waived. He's going to waive that for the Phoenix Suns. So my understanding is that this means he can now be traded. I don't know that necessarily means that gives the Phoenix Suns the ability to not have the trade clause on his contract upon receiving it. Or will he have to then waive it again if for some reason Phoenix wants to move him later on? I don't know. I do not know. But in order for him to be traded, he would have to waive his trade clause with the Wizards, and that is being done so that the Phoenix Suns thing can happen. So this sends Chris Paul out. Obviously, Chris Paul is expected to be waived once he gets to the Washington Wizards. Nobody expects them to play him. That particular contract, they're trying to free up cap space, and this is the end of an era. Obviously, with Bradley Beal never playing for another team before, this will be the first time he goes anywhere else other than Washington. Drafted there, been there the whole time. Obviously had a career that allowed him to make a fortune, but they haven't really had a chance to really have a good team until never. So they finally he gets the heck out of there. He's going to get a chance to play on a super team in Phoenix. How Phoenix is going to make this make sense to me means they'll probably have to trade Ayton. I see them trading Ayton in a separate deal. Maybe even add him to this deal, but I doubt that. With a third team going a different way, I doubt that. I think it'll be a separate deal that likely moves Ayton into a situation that turns Ayton to a bunch of stuff that allows him the flexibility to have more players. Maybe they trade Ayton for a package of vets. Maybe they trade Ayton for a package of a bad contract like Gordon Hayward, and maybe take back a pick or something. Create some space for themselves, some flexibility rather. Maybe flip that pick to another team that can get them what they want. You see what I'm saying? Get a three-team deal, send Ayton somewhere, get picks. Don't keep those picks, but shoot it somewhere else, I guess is what I'm saying. And then the other team would absorb the bad contract, as to which they would take back the pieces that they want. That's how I would try to do it if I was the Phoenix Suns. Maybe the Ayton would be good straight up for those pieces. Maybe. But if you're demanding pick equity, it'll probably be easier to do it because somebody will be willing to attach a bad contract to receiving Ayton and send you picks, because that's probably how they're going to want to do it. Nobody's going to want to send you something they want to bring Ayton in, but they will be willing to send you something they don't want and maybe add picks to it, as I'm saying 3 times. So that's kind of how I see it, the Ayton demand being, because I don't know how many win now teams are gonna want Ayton necessarily. I don't really know. I'm not thinking this all the way through in regards to Ayton's prospects of where he would go. I think a team like Dallas makes sense if they wanted to move him there. Team without a center, maybe the Clippers makes sense for Ayton. depending on if they're willing to finally break apart some of what it is that they have. Uh, who knows? There are going to be opportunities that open up. I don't know what teams look like. I don't want to throw teams out there that have centers like Toronto, who has Poeltl in place. But maybe they would be in the mix to make some moves that could ultimately free up some things for them to create some space for themselves. I heard that they had a deal going on where they were trying to move Anunoby to the Pacers, and they were having a 3-team deal. It's a discussion where Dallas would be receiving something in that mix. I think Buddy Yield would be going to Dallas, and then a bunch of stuff would be headed there Toronto's way. Picks from the Pacers, probably a couple picks from the Pacers, maybe some other things as well. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. That 3-team proposed deal didn't come from Woj, but it is starting to float around that the Pacers are looking to possibly move Buddy Yield. That's what I'm hearing. And there are a lot of suitors that would be willing to possibly jump in. Obviously, the Lakers are a team that's been rumored to have Buddy Yield on their mind. Gary Trent Jr. in regards to the Toronto Raptors is also somebody I think could possibly be moved at some point during this offseason. So it's just a lot of stuff to pay attention to in regards to those names. And Royce O'Neal, his name has also been mentioned in trade rumors. I think the Nets are trying to figure out what direction they want to go with the 21st and 22nd pick. Maybe they move one of them. I don't have any inclination whatsoever. But that's really where we're at right now. Of course, for the draft's coming up on Thursday, this Sunday now. So we will definitely have some information, and you can clearly see how teams are trying to position themselves to have things done by then. This Phoenix deal, I don't imagine will stretch out that far. I'm pretty certain this thing will probably be done by Tuesday at the latest. That's just my guess. Due to the fact that they are going to want to see kind of some stability, and I would say I mean all the teams in the league that don't plan on doing draft day trades are probably going to want to have some stability as to what it is they're looking at with their rosters. So a team like Washington, for example, who's likely going to be taking back some type of draft equity at some point in time when this thing finishes shaking out, they're going to want all that stuff in hand so that if they do decide to make some draft day trades, they're not teetering on whether or not this deal got done. You know what I mean? Teetering on what it is they're looking at based on this thing not being finalized. So I think this deal will get finalized, and probably a few others before the draft. Before the draft, I think we could probably see 2 or 3 trades before the draft. Charlotte is rumored to be taking Brandon Miller, and I think that is being floated around to throw people off. I don't actually think they're going to take Brandon Miller. I don't. I think they're going to take Scoot Henderson anyway, and that's what I'm telling all of you. So if you continue to hear that they're going to take Brandon Miller, it's very possible I'm wrong. But I think there's a clear understanding of who the top 2 players are in this draft, and Brandon Miller is 3rd. Scoot is very much firmly in the 2nd overall slot. And I think if you want to respect Scoot's value, you should probably take him at 2 and trade him to whoever wants him from there. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think the Charlotte Hornets are going to trade their pick. It doesn't mean that they're not going to get a top 5 player. They're probably going to trade their pick to one of those teams that has a pick. Swap it with Portland, which doesn't make much sense, but I can see them doing that, sending it to a 3rd team. Simon's 3rd pick going to a 3rd team. 2 goes to 3rd team. I don't know. Portland takes back what I don't know. I ain't thinking this out. But what I'm saying is I could totally see Charlotte Hornets staying in that top 6 range, trading with Orlando, trading with Detroit, trading with Houston, trading with one of those teams that has a high pick so they can still land the guy that they want. That's what I would do. Rather, try to retain some value for Scoot Henderson if you plan on trading him. And I don't think the worst thing in the world is signing him. I like their roster if they just draft Scoot Henderson and don't do nothing else. They really look pretty good. I don't think people realize how good that team looks if you just put Scoot at the shooting guard position right away and just let him play that out. Now, you probably do want to put the ball in his hands, but LaMelo Ball is a fluid player, so LaMelo could play the 2 as well if it has to come to that. I don't think the fit is going to be that crazy. They could shave off salary other ways at that point. So I think that's probably the safer bet because at the end of the day, as much as you like Brandon Miller, you do understand that you're going to have to wait on him. You're going to have to wait on him. Now, that might not be the worst thing in the world for Charlotte, to be honest with you. But I can tell you it might not be what works for Portland. Now, Portland's a team that looks less likely to draft Scoot. I don't think they're going to toy with Dame Lillard like that. And I don't actually see them trading Dame Lillard on draft night on a whim when he thinks he's still in Portland. I just don't see them pulling the rug under him, even if it makes sense for their team in drafting Scoot and moving forward with him. I just don't see them doing that. So I think that there's a good chance that they're going to draft Brandon Miller. And my inclination about whether or not they'll keep Brandon Miller, it's all over the place because I don't necessarily look at Brandon Miller as a bad fit at all for Portland. Not at all. I think you slide him in at the 3 spot, or the 4. You can play him at the 4, even though he's a little small for the 4. And you have a piece that is what you probably want. You know what I mean? A small forward who can shoot the ball. Obviously, someone who's clutch, who can also assist with Dame hitting shots. Someone who could facilitate the ball to Dame situations. I think you would be getting rid of Brandon Miller because you just don't think it would fit Dame's timeline. Not necessarily because the fit would be funny like Scoot. So my inclination in regards to that, I don't really know which way Portland want to go. I think they probably would move Brandon Miller anyway. And depending on what they get back would make it whether or not I see it as a mistake. Because if you can get something very, very valuable for that 3rd overall pick, then you're definitely happy you did. For example, if they can trade the 3rd overall pick for Brandon Ingram, I don't know if that's an upgrade for the New Orleans Pelicans since they want Scoot Henderson, and in this scenario, Scoot's gone. But it's just the type of thing that you're considering when you want to get a piece like Brandon Miller, but you need him to be ready rather than to wait on him for 2-3 years to become what it is he's going to be. So that would be the concern if I were in Portland. I don't want Brandon Miller to slow me down. Although I already got Shaedon Sharpe on the team, and that timeline means a lot to me if you're following what I think makes sense. I'm adding to Shaedon Sharpe. I'm probably putting Amen Thompson next to him, honestly. This is why I think Brandon Miller could actually fall to 4. And if you follow my mock draft, I think there's a good chance it may happen. Because I think Amen Thompson is a more seamless fit, having 2 very, very high-level twitchy athletes jumping out the gym, passing to one another over the next 6 years, seems a lot more fun to me than just grabbing another shooting guard, power forward, small forward shooter like Brandon Miller and just waiting for Dame to retire. I don't think that's as exciting. I don't think that complements Shaedon Sharpe as much. And that's who exactly I'm paying attention to. I want Shaedon Sharpe, and I want some type of athlete. If not Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore. Nobody's considering Cam Whitmore for the Portland Trailblazers at 3, but maybe they trade down to make that happen. Hendricks isn't the worst fit for the Portland Trailblazers. See, this is why I think they can trade the pick, stay in the draft, and get a player that's more likely to fit what it is they want to do, maybe more so than Brandon Miller. Even though those guys aren't necessarily supposed to be better than Brandon Miller, they may fit Portland a little better than Brandon Miller, depending on what Portland wants to do. So I don't really know. I look at Brandon Miller as a player who could fit in with Portland, but it's almost underwhelming that he goes there because they already have clutch shooters. They already have guys that are shooting the ball. They kind of need other stuff. They kind of need other stuff, but they do need the shooting guard position, small forward position, rather taken care of. If they're planning on moving Anthony Simons, which I don't. In a nutshell, I'm not a big fan of just moving him just to be moving him, but I also look at him as a piece, sort of like C.J. McCollum next to Dame Lillard, that doesn't necessarily make as much sense because he's not doing things that necessarily help you on the defensive end, and that's where Dame is also deficient. So he's not necessarily looking to facilitate the ball as much, although he does get assists. I gotta amend that. Simons definitely can get big assists. So I personally think he needs to be somewhere where he has the ball in his hands by himself as an only star point guard too. I think he's better when you focus more on him than less. So you put him next to Scoots, put him next to Dame, it's almost like you forget that he can do as much as he can. And so that's what I'll say about Anthony Simons. $100 million contract is a little hefty for what it is they had him playing at. But if you believe in what you saw in regards to him when he had the backcourt to himself, then you probably understand that he's going to be a problem for many years to come, especially if he can get out from under that trio of guards that it look like will likely be put together if Portland ends up with Scoot and Dame. So Shaedon Sharpe, no, excuse me, I keep saying his name wrong. Anthony Simons is a guy that you likely will see moved right now. With 3 years left on that deal, $25 million a year, I think that's how that goes. I could totally see somebody slipping him in and feeling really good about that situation. So that's just something I'm thinking about there, especially teams that have defensive two guards, defensive wings. You could fit him right in if you have a scoring need. So there would be teams that could use him. A team like Toronto could use Anthony Simons. The Lakers, believe it or not, we could use Anthony Simons. I don't know if you see him as an upgrade from D'Angelo Russell. Many may not, but you know that's kind of the kind of thing that's possible. So yeah, man, looking around. You know, I just understand that the draft is going to be providing a lot of options, and I'm just wondering which one of these dudes that we don't see coming is about to fall. Somebody's going to fall just off of default. That's going to happen. I don't know if it's Kobe Buffkin. I don't know if it's Keontae George. I don't know. But some of these guys who are in the 17, 18, 19 range, you're starting to see their names start to creep back into where they were initially when we first started hearing about it. Jet Howard's now starting to creep up back into the 17, 16 range. Sensabaugh, you're starting to see people starting to move him up a little bit. And I think that's very interesting because it's going to mean that if teams do things that they have no business doing, which a lot of times teams do when they draft, messing up the draft board just by taking stuff that they already have, doubling down on stuff that doesn't make any sense, which we see every year, then it will shake some things up that will make it so that some teams on the back of the draft will get better players than you expect to see. And that's what I want people to understand. Every year, as long as I've been watching the draft, there is always either one or two teams that does something that does not make any sense, that looks like it's not going to make any sense, and proceeds not to work. I'm telling you, it's always one. Like everybody telling them this is the guy that's better than that guy, but they know better. They're going to take that guy, and then they're going to stick. My question is, which one of you teams is going to do that this year? Because this is one of the more talked about draft classes, studied draft classes in my lifetime. So we all kind of understand who's in the top 30 range. I don't think there's anybody who's following this that doesn't know about every single player within the top 25, 30 range. So which one of you teams has a specific need but is going to decide to reach for your favorite guy? Which one of you teams is going to have 7 and 8 guards but still love Kobe Buffkin? Which one of you teams is going to do that? It's going to be a team like that, a team that values something that they probably shouldn't value based on what their needs are, but they're going to get it anyway, reaching for somebody they have no business reaching for, that kind of thing. Once we see the draft play itself out, and there's going to be a lot of switcheroos going on because of how the trades could be possible at the top of the 3 picks. Well, of course not Wembanyama, but them second, 2, and the 3rd pick. If things shake out the wrong way, and you have that coupled with the same type of thing I'm telling you right here, with people taking things they have no business taking, somebody's going to fall in a major way. Somebody's going to fall in a major way. I don't know if it's going to be Amen Thompson, Jarris Walker. I don't know. But somebody that has no business falling to 10 will most definitely fall to 10, maybe even further. So I'm just telling y'all that right now. I don't know if it's Hendricks. I don't know. Coulibaly. Somebody's name that is really hyped is probably going to be available to a team that has no intentions of getting them. And at that point, they're going to have to choose whether or not they want to take the guy they've been looking at the whole time, they probably have as a lock to them, or pass on that player and take the person that ultimately falls. And that is always a very difficult decision that can throw the draft off even further. So I'm telling people, be ready for that, because I've seen it too many times. I'll never forget the Thon Maker pick. Milwaukee took him 10th overall. I think it was 10th overall. It was the worst pick I ever seen in my life at that point. I told them that they should have. I said it. I was like, that should have been the second round pick, no question. How you take him in the top 10, I have no idea. When he doesn't pan out, we will go back and tell you that this didn't work out. Here we are. It didn't work out. It was a terrible pick, just like I said it was that day. Just like I said that day. In the future, it was just as bad. And I'm telling you, expect more of that from this draft. Expect it. So that's what I'm telling teams, man. Brace yourselves. I'm looking at the Philadelphia 76ers, and I think there's a reasonable chance that something could change there. I don't know why. I'm just listening. I'm looking at what Doc Rivers said about James Harden. James Harden's future is definitely in the NBA, but probably not in Philadelphia. Houston, maybe. And if it's Houston, I think that they'll probably not take Amen Thompson because it doesn't make any sense. In my mock, I did have them getting James Harden and keeping their pick, which is why they ended up with Brandon Miller. Because somebody, well, no, in my mock, I had Amen Thompson actually being traded for. Somebody wanted Amen Thompson ahead of Houston. So they excuse me, asked the Houston Rockets to draft for them Amen Thompson. I think there's a good chance that happens too. If not with Amen Thompson, maybe with Cam Whitmore, maybe somebody else. But I do think that there's a very good chance that our draft board, whatever it is you think is your mock, is going to get shaken up by the idea that somebody's going to reach for somebody they want to keep them out of one of those players' team's hands. Grady Dick, you trade up for Grady Dick. If you think the Orlando Magic going to take him one of their first picks, maybe you need that player. Maybe you trade with the Houston Rockets to get that pick so you can take that player. These type of things, I just have a very strong inclination that something like that is imminent, absolutely imminent with this draft looking the way that it is. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Good luck to everybody. Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Phoenix Suns do there with Bradley Beal. They already have an issue with their depth. So bringing in Bradley Beal, I don't think helps them when they talk about how much is on that contract. So we'll see what they do. You know, they got Frank Vogel over there. So Frank Vogel's going to be coaching a super team. This is going to be rather funny to me. But it is what it is. That's what we got. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching, and I'm out.